I've been using online dating apps for years. I've heard plenty of catfish stories and horror stories regarding them. People not being who they say they are, people being stalked, and even people being beaten. These stories really didn't stop me from using dating apps, as I'd never had any problems and just didn't see myself falling into that kind of trap. But I was wrong. I recently started using OkCupid. It was different from the other apps I'd usually use, and I wanted to try something new. I started off slow and I wasn't really matching with any people the first day, and I was already thinking of just jumping back on the previous apps I was using. But after giving it another day, I matched with a good-looking girl named Tara. She was a local in my town. We began talking, and I liked what I saw from her pictures, and I enjoyed our conversations as we seemed to have quite a bit in common and got along really well. We hadn't been talking long when I was surprised that Tara was so keen to meet up, and I asked if she'd be interested in meeting up that night. I was surprised by how fast she had asked, but I was happy to do so. I agreed, and while I was thinking of somewhere to meet, she messaged again, suggesting that she would come to mine, and asked if I'd be alright if she brought along some drinks. If not, it was cool, and we would meet somewhere else. But she liked the idea of having a drink with me and just getting to know me a little better. At first, I thought no one had said that before when talking to me online. Being in the moment, I didn't see a problem with it and decided to say yes. In a way, I thought it might be less awkward than meeting out in public. I don't live alone. I live with a friend who was my roommate, but I knew he'd be working that night anyway, so I'd have the place to myself. After agreeing for her to come to my place and arranging a time, I proceeded to send her the address. After I'd sent it, I was soon met with an anxious knot that built up in my stomach, as I suddenly thought I had just sent my address to a girl who I'd been speaking to for like a day, and I didn't really know. And yeah, like you may be thinking, that's a stupid thing to do. I convinced myself I was just overreacting and assured myself that everything was okay. I messaged my roommate letting him know that I had a date that evening and to ask what time he would be home. I received another message from Tara while I was getting ready that read, quote, "I'll be leaving soon, looking forward to meeting you." Later that evening, it was approaching the time we'd arranged for her to come around. I quickly tidied up, making sure everything was on point as I heard a car pull up on the street outside. I looked out the window expecting it to be Tara, but as I looked, I couldn't really see who it was. It sat there for a minute before starting back up and driving off. I guessed it just wasn't her. It was now about 30 minutes after the time we had arranged and Tara still hadn't arrived. I decided to drop her a message and check in to make sure she was okay and make sure she hadn't gotten lost. I received a message back quick saying, "No baby, I'm almost there." The fact that she called me baby, I found kind of strange, seeing that she didn't really know me yet. We hadn't met. I heard a car pull up outside that was followed by a car door shutting. As I went to look again, I noticed it was the same car on the street that had pulled up earlier. I could see somebody sitting in the driver's seat, but I couldn't make out who. And again, it pulled away and drove off down the street. As I was looking at the car, suddenly there were 3 loud knocks at the door. I headed to the door and I opened it. It was what I assumed Tara, only she looked different to how she did in her pictures. I mean, it was still her, still very pretty, but something different about her in person. She smiled awkwardly, saying hi as she walked past me into my house. She began looking around. Surprised by how she just walked in and felt comfortable to look around, I said hey, in a confused way, which she must have sensed in my voice. She turned back towards me, apologizing as she walked over and she hugged me. "It's nice to meet you in person. You're even more handsome than in your pictures," she said. The fact that she said that made me feel great at the time, and I began to feel more at ease. I showed her to the front room and we both sat down on the sofa together. I tried to make conversation, but Tara would give vague replies and continue to stare around the room awkwardly. She looked back at the front door, and I asked if everything was okay. She turned back to me with that same awkward look, saying yes, she was fine. I asked if I could get her anything. She pulled out a bottle of red from her bag, saying that she had bought it for us and asked if I could go open it and get some glasses. I thought that was a good idea. A drink might put her at ease. I took the bottle and headed to the kitchen. As I opened the wine and searched for the glasses, I could hear Tara talking. I looked back through the front room and saw that she was pacing around the room on her phone. I poured the wine, thinking that there was just something off about her as I readied myself to go back with the drinks. And as I did, I heard 3 more knocks on my door. I walked into the front room, and Tara wasn't there. I put the wine on the table and headed to the door when I froze. The color drained from my face as I saw Tara with the door wide open and 2 masked men walking in. I stuttered, What is this?" asking who they were. Tara shouted for me to shut up and cooperate as the 2 men rushed in. One pulled out a gun and told me to get on the ground. I can't lie, I was fucking terrified. I put my hands out and backed up, asking them not to hurt me. Then the man lunged at me, cracking the base of his gun into my forehead, and I remember the sharp stabbing pain as I fell backwards to the floor. The 2 men dragged me over to the table as I tried to fight them off and resist. This only made them angrier as they started kicking me while I was down, my heart pounding, thinking they were going to kill me. All the while, all I could hear was Tara laughing at it all. The men tied my hands up as Tara bent down and she mocked me, saying, "It was nice to meet me." And with that, all I remember was a crashing blow to the back of my head before everything went black. I woke up to the sound of my roommate's panicked voice. I remember opening my eyes to the blurry sight of him over me, shaking me, asking if I was okay. The pain in my head was something else. When I came around, he proceeded to tell me that he had called the police and the paramedics when he found me unconscious on the floor, tied up, and that we had been ransacked for all of our valuables. I felt physically sick. That lowlife I'd been talking to, Tara, and her accomplices had robbed us. I apologized to my friend, feeling so guilty. How could I have been so stupid as to invite a stranger I'd been talking to for 5 minutes over to our house? The police came and took statements, and I was checked over for injuries. I couldn't really give much information though, as Tara's profile was obviously deleted. I told them what happened about the attack, and I told them of the car that was outside of the house she had turned up in, which the 2 guys must have been waiting in until they got the go-ahead. But months later, sadly, they have still not been apprehended. I only have myself to blame for finding myself in that terrifying situation. So take it from me, online dating does have its risks, as you don't know who you're talking to. But just be smart and really get to know someone first, and use good, recommended sites. Always meet in public and not alone. And to Tara, wherever you are out there, I hope you and your friends get what you deserve. Let's not meet again. Online dating is normal these days. There's apps and websites for everything. Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, to name a few. I've used many myself and done the whole online dating thing. But one encounter I had has terrified me and put me off on it altogether. I'm a 25-year-old female from New York, and at the time of this event, I'd been single for a while. I started talking to this guy I found on a dating site. He was slightly older than me, but not by much, and that's typically what I went for, an older guy. His name was Billy, and he was from Jefferson. He was really interesting, and we seemed to have a lot in common. It helped that his profile picture was attractive as well. So I took an instant liking. He was different from the other guys I'd spoken to online. He was such a gentleman. With how well we seemed to get on, I wanted to meet him as soon as I could. And seems we lived not too far away from one another, as I was in Albany, pretty much just an hour or so drive away. I got to know him more through video calls and texting. He told me that he would come into town where I live and meet me. I agreed on that, and had that feeling of excitement you get when you first start talking to someone. I decided that I wouldn't take him to my house until I really got to know him. He was going to come on the weekend, which, at the time, was still a few days away. So for a first date, we decided to meet in a restaurant. It was finally the weekend, and we met in person for the first time. I was attracted to him and how much of a gentleman he was. Even from just a first date, I was sure that we could take things further. After a pleasant evening and a date having gone well, it came to an end. After we'd had a few drinks, we were getting ready to leave. I didn't tell him where my place was, and instead planned to make my own way back. He said he was staying in a hotel in the city. As it was late and we'd had a few drinks, he wasn't going to try to head back that night. He offered for me to come back to his hotel, but I thought it to be in my best interests on the first date not to, and he seemed fine with that. So after saying our goodbyes, I got into a taxi and left for home. Not able to help myself, I looked back one more time. As I did, I saw Billy hail his own cab and get in, assuming that his hotel was not walking distance. I sat back and thought about how much fun I'd had that evening. That night when I arrived home and had gotten myself settled, I was lying in bed thinking about how well that date had gone. I was getting ready to sleep, not wanting to be forthcoming to show my interest. I was about to text Billy something like, "Thanks for a great evening and we should do it again sometime." But as I reached for my phone, I could hear something downstairs, like a door closing and the floor creaking, which was strange because I lived alone. The noise was not something I could brush off as the wind or something, as it was so distinctive. So I was kind of freaked out. So I opened my bedroom door to go and check it out. I slowly crept down the stairs and looked around, but I couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. I walked into the kitchen, turning on the lights, and there I saw I'd left the window open. Relieved, I put it down to the fact that it must have been the draft that was the cause of the door creaking. With the relief settling me, I closed the window and headed back upstairs and jumped back into bed. I grabbed my phone again, getting back to where I was, and began to text Billy before I went to sleep. After rereading my message over a few times, and I hit send. But as soon as I did, a fearful sensation consumed me, because as I'd hit send, I heard a vibration from the silence of my closet. Looking over, I could see a light of what seemed to be a phone through the crack of the door. It suddenly went off, like someone had covered it. I froze to the spot, fear pinning me down. I didn't know what to do. The thought of the noise I had heard downstairs suddenly became very clear. Someone was in my house, and now they were in my closet. My heart pounding as I stared at the closet, expecting it to open at any second. My adrenaline kicked in, thinking it was now or never, and I made a break for my bedroom door as fast as I could. And as soon as I did, I saw my closet crash open, and to my horror, Billy lunged out with an angered expression on his face, looking like a different person than he was on the date. Screaming in shock, I ran straight for my bathroom and slammed the door shut, locking it behind me. There was a pounding on the door as Billy crashed up against it, while asking me to come out and stating he was just trying to surprise me, apparently in some kind of fucked up way by breaking into my house and hiding in my closet. I shouted, what the hell was he doing in my house? His reply sickened me. He said he wouldn't be here if I wasn't such a tease, and had just gone back to his hotel with him instead of being an uptight bitch. He continued to pound on the door, telling me to come out. Wasting no more time, I called the police and screamed what was happening, and with that turned my attention back to him and screamed out that the police were on their way. The pounding on the door stopped. I could hear the footsteps walking away from the door. I stayed in the bathroom until the police showed up, too scared to move, crying to myself, not knowing if he was still in my house. The police arrived pretty fast after I called them, giving me the all clear to exit my bathroom. I told them everything that happened from the date and that Billy must have followed my taxi and his taxi and broke into my house. I gave them the number and showed them the dating app. His profile was already gone. After that night, I felt too scared staying by myself, fearing that he was still there. Billy was never apprehended. I don't even know now if that was his real name. I assume it wasn't, as he wasn't caught. He may have played the gentleman, but he truly had other intentions that night. I moved in with a friend for a while after that experience until I felt safe again. I have never dated online since, as you just don't know who you're gonna meet. So please be careful out there when talking to someone, and make sure you really get to know them first. Just a quick one, guys. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed these disturbing stories. Why don't you comment down below which one would have terrified you the most if it were you in that situation? Also, don't forget to subscribe just over to the left and look out for plenty more upcoming content by hitting that bell button. If you can, like, comment, and share. It really helps us out, and I really appreciate it a lot, you guys. Let us know what story subjects you'd be interested in hearing soon in upcoming videos. And thanks again. Take care out there, and remember, fear lies within.